Hello everyone, I'm Alexa Donne, a traditionally published author, and today I want to talk a bit about some very common and popular and oft-repeated writing advice that I just cannot in good faith endorse. These are pieces of writing advice that people say all the time, including here on YouTube, and I've just hesitated to make videos about them because I feel that if I made a video and I parroted this advice and trumpeted this advice, that I would be a massive hypocrite. So I thought it would be fun just to talk about a few of them and tell you why I just can't wholeheartedly endorse these common bits of writing advice, because I have problems with all of these things. I think it's important to be a bit more transparent as a writer, including and especially if you're a professional writer, about the things that you know you should do but honestly are hard, because it's easy to give craft advice, it's easy to talk about craft, it's really hard to walk the walk and do everything perfectly. And really, no one does everything perfectly, no one's a perfect writer, so let's talk about some of these. The first one is not going to surprise you because I did actually make a video about this and I front-loaded it with, I'm really not the best person to talk about this, and that is show, don't tell. This is great craft advice. I know why it's great craft advice, and I try very hard to follow this craft advice. If you watch my show don't tell video, which I will link to down below, I go more in depth about kind of how I've had to process this advice and deal with it, because I am a teller. I definitely default to telling and have problems with telling. A huge part of this is my background as a journalist. I went to school for journalism, I was kind of trained in that, and the art of journalism, of course you're always going to have kind of vivid prose and you can use details to really make journalism, especially features journalism, sing. But journalism is all about relaying things and telling things. You're an observer and you're kind of sharing things with people. And then of course I did a lot of kind of criticism, and the point is, I default to telling. I've always been good at telling, which is why I gravitated towards journalism, so I really struggle with it in fiction. Now, of course, the reason show don't tell is great writing advice is when you show and you use detail and you use description, it makes for a more active reading experience, whereas telling is a passive reading experience, and you always want to have a more active reading experience so that you can engage your readers. So of course, you should show don't tell most of the time, but I'm not going to be the writer to sit here and yell at you because you have a problem with telling, because so do I. It is something that you can work on, however. It's something that you can overcome. So it's a skill to develop, but I'm not gonna yell at you. The next piece of writing advice it really shouldn't be telling you to do, well, without looking inward at myself, is filter words. This is a big one, and in fact this is a really great hack for improving your writing. Thinking about filter words, realizing what they are, and then trying to eliminate them in your writing. Filter words are any words that are used to filter the experience of the reader. You are filtering things through the lens, the POV of your main character, and it creates distance. This is again kind of that active versus passive thing, and actually if you rely heavily on filter words, you can have a problem with telling. It can be that passive reading experience. Filter words are like looked, realized, saw, felt, feel, there's all sorts of them, and I'm actually going to link you down below to a YouTube video I think is great about filter words that can help you improve your writing so that I don't necessarily have to make one, and that is Shaylin Wright's video on filter words, so I'm going to link you to that down below. So I definitely use filter words a lot, especially when I'm doing a first draft. I would consider filter words and indeed telling a writing crutch for me, meaning to get through a first draft, I do a lot of these things. When I go through and revise, of course I try to eliminate filter words, but something also about filter words is, at least in young adult fiction, when you're using first-person perspective, it can sometimes be really difficult to write something without using a filter word, because you are literally filtering the experience through your main character's eyes. So I wouldn't say never use filter words, get rid of all filter words. I think there's a place for them as long as you're still kind of doing things with the prose and the scene and the moment so that it doesn't feel too heavily like plotting, telling. Which brings me to the third thing you hear all the time, that, magic writing hack of how to fix your writing that I am just never going to endorse, and that is cut all your adverbs. Adverbs are bad. Adverbs are evil. Good writers don't use adverbs. No, I can't endorse this because I love adverbs. I've always loved adverbs. And I honestly feel that adverbs have their place in fiction, in writing. A really well-applied adverb can elevate a sentence, can elevate a moment, can elevate a scene. They can be used well, so you're never going to see me on this channel writing the adverb hate train and chastising you for also using adverbs. It's just not who I am. And I did actually get a comment on one of my videos they said that, don't use adverbs. I was like, I never said that in my video. Please show me where I said that in a video, because I would be such a massive hypocrite if I told you to cut your adverbs. I think adverbs can be used well every once in a while. Saying that something was done quietly, but not like that, because that's a passive construction, which is a whole other thing. Not using passive voice is advice I can give, because I have tried to kill it from all of my writing, but that is another video for another day. So, adverbs. I honestly think that adverbs can be good. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you not to use them. Now, as with all things, everything in moderation. You can overly rely on adverbs. Adverbs can be a crutch, which is why this is common writing advice to get rid of your adverbs. So you always want to examine your work and make sure you're not doing too much of anything. And really, I think most writing advice and things that you should or shouldn't do are about either everything in moderation or know the rule so that you can break the rule. That's actually one of my favorite writing adages, or at least things that I hold myself to, and that is, if I know why something is a rule, or I know why something is bad, but then I'm consciously doing the thing and I think I'm doing it well, then I can get away with it. So it's kind of, you have to walk that line. Next, just really common, I wouldn't say writing advice, but writing dogma that you hear, and that is, you have to write beautifully, or you should write beautifully. You should write descriptively. This actually kind of brings us back to show don't tell, that whole you should show everything. And I am not going to tell you that, because again, I'd be a massive hypocrite. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that my writing is the most beautiful, wonderful thing since sliced bread. I am happy with my writing. I think my book's okay, but I am not writing the next great American novel. I am not a literary novelist. I don't think I write particularly beautiful prose. And so it would be hypocritical of me to tell you that. Now, of course, you always want to look at your writing. If your writing is kind of straightforward or feels basic, if you feel like you don't have a lot of voice, you can, of course, examine your writing and push yourself further in terms of describing things better, having more vivid language, and so on. But I'm just not going to sit here and tell you that you have to be a pretty writer and write beautiful prose in order to be a good writer, because I'm not a hypocrite. The next thing you hear all the time, and if you are familiar with my channel, you know I don't like this, and that is the adage that to be a writer, you have to write every day. Real writers write every day. No, I'm pretty sure I'm a real writer. I mean, I have a book out, and I don't write every day. I go long periods without writing, especially when I'm between books. Oh, I'm just so exhausted, I need a break. So I won't write sometimes for over a month, even more than that. When I'm actively drafting a project, whether that's turning in a draft, I have to turn in a draft, or I'm revising, yes, I am very often working every day. But that doesn't mean I'm writing a ton every day. I don't think you have to be churning out 2,000, 3,000, oh gosh, more than that a day to be a real writer. I don't think you have to write every day. I don't think you have to get up early in the morning to write. I also don't think you should only write when the muse strikes you, because if you do that, you're not going to finish a book. But I think that you can write as religiously as humanly possible and take long, healthy breaks to refill your well between writing sprints, jaunts essentially, and you are a real writer. You're writing, you can accomplish things, you can finish things, being kinder to yourself, and basically writing all the time, but not writing all the time, you know what I mean? So I'm just never gonna tell you to write every day. If you can write every day, great. That is great for writing habits, and you'll probably be really productive, but not everyone is capable of that. And last but not least, I'm never gonna tell you to write faster, write more words, more, faster, faster, faster. Again, if you can do this, I applaud you, you're amazing. I would like to train myself to write faster, but I'm just never gonna sit here and tell you that you're worthless or useless or you're not gonna make it if you're not able to churn out thousands of words a day every single day so that you're writing a book a month or a book every 2 months or what have you. Not everyone is capable of that speed. It's something that is kind of potentially trainable, but sometimes it's just not possible around kind of your schedule, your life, or just your creativity doesn't work that way. Again, it's not about like, oh, my muse, but sometimes the best day that you can have is a 500-word day, and that's a great day because you actually wrote something and you didn't stop progress. You wrote words. So yeah, I would be a huge hypocrite if I told you to write fast. The fastest I ever wrote was I wrote Brightly Burning in 3 months, and the first draft was 104,000 words. But then my next book, my 4th book, Stars We Steal, first draft took me 9 months, and that was 86,000 words. Actually, fewer words took 3 times as long. Every book is different and everyone's speed is going to be different. So you just have to kind of follow the kind of writer that you are. You can always work on things and you can always improve, but I am never going to sit here and tell you that if you don't do something that you're a bad writer, or if you don't do something you're not gonna make it. And I'm also not gonna tell you that what I do is the way to do things. So follow your bliss, follow your instincts, and don't beat yourself up when you can't do or follow a lot of this common writing advice. I always advocate being as nice to yourself as humanly possible while still kind of, you know, smacking yourself in the butt if you are procrastinating and you need a little tough love from yourself. But I also think a little self-love goes a long way. Let me know down below in the comments any common writing advice you absolutely cannot endorse. You hear it all the time and you're like, I don't do that and I don't think I'm garbage. I'm curious the things that you hear that drive you a little bit bonkers. Give this video a thumbs up and I will make more videos all about craft advice and things that both I maybe think you should do or don't think you should do, or that just drive me a little bit round the twist. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, guys, happy writing.